Is the Bitcoin top in? What's my next swing long plan for Bitcoin? And what's my intraday trading idea for today for the price of Bitcoin? Those are 3 questions that I will answer in today's YouTube video. Most people think right now that the top is in on Bitcoin, but let me give you guys a few reasons why I actually think that this is not the case. The first reason being simple liquidity, guys. We know that in order to distribute a lot of orders or in order to accumulate a lot of orders, first of all, it takes time, but second of all, market makers need a lot of liquidity in order to fill their bigger orders, because we have to realize that those orders, they are so big that in order to sell millions and millions dollars worth of Bitcoin or buy millions dollars worth of Bitcoin, it also takes millions dollars worth of Bitcoin of people to sell to them in order for them to be able to buy. Or if they want to sell in order to create a long-term top, it also takes a lot of liquidity in order to be able to sell all of their Bitcoin. Now, what we can currently see on the Bitcoin chart is that yes, I do think that Bitcoin was generating some liquidity right over here on the daily chart. But if this was the liquidity pool and that liquidity was aligning above this area right over here, then why would market makers push the price all the way towards this price to then distribute their orders right over here? If this would have been the liquidity pool and market makers truly wanted to distribute their orders, I do think that market makers would only push it above this high over here, then form a deviation over here and then top out like this. Now market makers push the price a lot higher over here with a very impulsive move towards the upside, and I do think that this is indicating a lot of strength by the bulls. Now what we often see for tops and bottoms to form is that after a long uptrend like we are seeing over here, or after a long downtrend over here, the first break of structure to the downside, in this case this break of structure over here, turns out to be a fake out. Why so? Because this break of structure over here is engineered, is designed in order to trap people into thinking that a top is in. So what do people do? They either short the price of Bitcoin over here with their stop loss above either one of those highs over here, targeting a potential bear market and lower prices. Look at the RR. It's worth it as well for a lot of people. Or because of this break of structure, they start panic selling Bitcoin right over here, thinking that the top is in. Now, how do market makers use this type of behavior by the retail traders? They use the sell pressure and short pressure that is taking place over here because of this breakdown over here to fill their own bigger buy orders right over here. And a lot of people that were shorting and that were placing their stop loss above this high, for example, or above the highs over here, what are those shorts doing? They are basically engineering a lot of liquidity above the highs over here, creating a massive liquidity pool. And now this liquidity pool could be an area where market makers are going to unload their bags, where market makers are going to distribute their bags and distribute their positions on Bitcoin, creating a potential long-term top. So in my opinion, it makes a lot more sense for this move to be a complete fake move to the downside, because it's such a clean sweep over here of the previous all-time high, such a clean push towards the downside, giving us a valid break of structure. This often turns out to be a trap after a long uptrend or after a long downtrend. The exact same happens. So let's say we have a very impulsive move to the downside. This first break of structure is often designed to trap people into premature longs, engineering liquidity over here. Then we sweep that liquidity. This is where market makers start accumulating, and then it pushes back towards the upside and gives us a high probability reversal. Now if we invert this chart over here, this is exactly what I'm thinking on Bitcoin. So I'm thinking that this move to the downside that we were seeing over here the past couple of weeks is going to turn out to be a fake out. In order to engineer a lot of high time frame liquidity above these highs over here, now market makers can push the price towards a valid and high probability liquidity pool containing loads and loads of orders that they can then use to sell all of their Bitcoin that they have been accumulating at lower prices, for example, right over here right now. Well, then we need to see some signs of distribution, and then we can look at a potential high time frame top and a potential start of the bear market near the end of the year. If you guys want me to go more in depth on why Bitcoin is not topped out yet, let me know in the comment section down below by simply commenting the word Bitcoin, and I'll make sure to make a very in-depth video on why the Bitcoin cycle top isn't in just yet. Now, one of the reasons why I slowly but surely start looking for longs and why I think there's accumulation going on Bitcoin is the fact that we are forming a major bullish divergence potentially right here on the daily chart for Bitcoin. With the RSI, we can see that we are forming a higher low while the Bitcoin price is forming a lower low. The last time, and also almost the only time, that we have formed a bullish RSI divergence on the daily time frame for Bitcoin within this bull market was right over here, where the price was forming a slight lower low while the RSI on the daily was forming a higher low. And we can see that afterwards we started this massive rally towards brand new all-time highs of approximately 107%. So that is one of the main reasons why I'm currently bullish on Bitcoin. Also, we are still looking at a potential deviation of this major range low right over here, in which we have a first deviation potentially being followed up by a second bigger deviation. Now, what we can also see when we analyze the structure over here is once again a similar pattern as I was just talking about on a daily chart for Bitcoin, in which we have a very strong and impulsive move to the downside. After this impulsive move to the downside, we can see that Bitcoin is forming a clean reversal structure over here with a local sweep of the low and a break of structure towards the upside over here. A lot of people thinking that the bottom is in, but this potentially is then actually designed to engineer a lot of liquidity right over here, and that liquidity is currently being swept on Bitcoin. Now, this is the area where we want to start paying attention for Bitcoin, and there's two interesting scenarios that I'm currently watching for a potential bottom in order to open major swing longs for Bitcoin. Now, what we can see is that within this downtrend, this is where a lot of liquidity got swept as well. So the low over here that swept all of that liquidity becomes a significant low. Now this low over here then once again brought us to a higher high over here, and this is where we saw another swing failure. The swing failure of this high, this fake break of structure, then engineers a lot of liquidity over here, making this a valid and high probability liquidity sweep. Now because this high over here brings us to this lower low over here compared to this low that brought us to that high, this high now becomes a significant high to break. And because this high also swept the liquidity above the high over here, I do think that this high carries even more significance. Now, one of the reasons why I really like the way that this high is shaping up is because of the fact that this low over here has brought us to this high, which means that there was a significant low over here because this low swept the liquidity beneath the low. That's your alarm. Are you still paying attention? Are you writing down notes? Let me know in the comments down below what educational trading topic I should be making a video on next. This low over here was significant, which makes this high even more significant to break as well. So now my main scenario in order to be able to hop into longs for Bitcoin is to get a move above that high, in which price would also break above this bearish displacement. I want to see a valid break of structure based off that high, which means that on a 1 hourly time frame, I do not only want a wick above that high, I don't want a candle close above this high. No, I want a candle open and candle close above that high, and then I'll be looking to play the higher low into this previous bearish fair value gap that then should turn into an inversion, and then I'm looking for a high time frame bottom, anticipating this higher time frame deviation to be completed. I'll be looking for longs with my invalidation beneath that low, targeting brand new all-time highs for Bitcoin, or at least in that case I'll be targeting liquidity pool around the range high over here, so that will be slightly lower like this. Now this offers a beautiful RR of approximately 4, and I do think that this would be a high probability reversal setup. Now the second way that I'm looking for potential swing longs on Bitcoin is if this also turns out to be a fake reversal structure. Once again, similar theory in which we're seeing a strong impulsive move to the downside within this local trend, and then the first reversal structure, aka the reverse structure over here, turns out to be a fake out in order to then engineer more and more liquidity beneath the local low over here. Once again, same concept. Because of this break of structure, a lot of people think that the top is in, the bottom is in this case for Bitcoin. They start longing the price of Bitcoin over here, or pull back long the price of Bitcoin, and they only have one low to cover their stop loss, which is this low over here, then engineering plenty of liquidity. Now, where I'll be looking for longs is if we sweep this low over here, the high that brings us to that low, aka the high right over here, becomes a very significant high to break for several reasons. First reason being because that high swept the liquidity above this high before then bring us to a lower low compared to this low that brought us to that high, and also this low over here, right? This low that brought us to that high is a significant low. How so? Because the lows over here swept a lot of liquidity beneath the low over here, therefore being very, very significant lows. So if the price of Bitcoin is not going to break through the high that I just talked about for a high probability break of structure and instead needs one more sweep, then I'm looking for a bullish reaction after that sweep, a bullish break of structure, then I'll be looking to play the higher low, and then I'll be looking for a bottom to form as well. This higher low will be a very aggressive play for me, because usually what you see with these kind of reversals, guys, is that if this reversal takes place, you don't see deep pullbacks like this if price is truly bullish, because in that case everyone would be able to hop into longs. If price is truly bullish after this value break of structure, it usually just consolidates, gives a slight sweep over here. This is where you want to position yourself with an aggressive long position targeting higher levels. Now this kind of long position is a little bit more aggressive, but also offers a beautiful RR if we enter over here with our invalidation beneath that local low and then targeting that liquidity pool around that range high, offers a beautiful RR of approximately 5. Now for my intraday trading idea, we have to look at the current daily low and current daily high for Bitcoin. When we go to the 15-minute time frame, we can see that we formed the current daily low over here during the first hour of the day, aka hour 0, and then we formed the current daily high over here during hour 6. Now when we look at the daily timing statistics, according to the Brighter Data dashboard, we can see that Bitcoin loves to form daily lows during hour 0 and that it hates to form daily highs during hour 6. And when we look at the daily distance statistics, we can see that there's only a 14.7% probability that the current daily low is gonna get broken for Bitcoin, and that there's a 33.8% probability that we are going to see a bigger move compared to the current move that we have seen so far on Bitcoin. Which means that based off daily distance, this low has a high probability to hold and this high has a low probability to hold. Based off the timing where we put in this low over here during the first hour of the day, this low has a high probability to hold and this high has a low probability to hold. Now, does that mean that we can simply blindly execute longs on Bitcoin over here up on the pullback with our invalidation over here, then targeting higher levels? No, that's definitely not the case. The time period where I'm interested in potentially executing longs on Bitcoin is in between the hours 12 over here and in between hour 14. So towards the end of hour 14, aka the beginning of hour 15. This is a time period, according to the timing statistics of Brighter Data, where Bitcoin likes to form a potential low for the New York session before expansion towards the upside. Now, what does that look like? It means that 87% of the lows and highs for the New York session are formed during this time period over here. The New York session goes all the way towards this time period over here, towards the start of hour 8, I believe, or the start of hour 21, I believe. Which means that what I'm looking for on Bitcoin is to consolidate throughout London, maybe sweep the high a little bit, and then I'm looking for Bitcoin to form a strong low over here within this time period, so in between hour 12 and in between hour 15, followed by a break of structure back towards the upside, and I want Bitcoin to form a new high outside of this time period over here. So if Bitcoin forms a high after hour 15 and forms a strong low in between hour 12 and in between hour 14, then I'm looking for longs over here on Bitcoin with my invalidation beneath the local low, and then I'm targeting yesterday's high as my main draw on liquidity for a beautiful RR of 2.27. Now this is an intraday trade that I'm taking based off market structure, liquidity, and the timing and distance of price. Now I'm patiently waiting for these triggers to develop during the New York session. If you want to get notified on this setup, make sure to follow me on Twitter and also make sure to join our free Discord server, guys. The link can be found down below.